Hey folks, it's Frederik of the FWX podcast, and in this episode, I want to talk about time travel. And I'm gonna be talking about how you might be using it in a story, or as a plot device, or in another way. Because, as my main tip always stays, I'm gonna say that a bit different. My main tip for anybody else, sorry about that, is to be original. And so there's many different things that have happened as or used as examples with time travel. I'm gonna be exploring some of those with you, and I will talk about those. Not to say what you should do and what you shouldn't, but really more to give you an idea, suggestions on what to do with time travel. And we'll do that in a moment, but first I would like to point out to you that you can like this video if you want to. You can also subscribe to this channel, which will really help us um, make it a larger format, and the channel will become bigger, and the podcast will become bigger as well. And that way, more people that want to listen and watch to this kind of content can do that. And also, I would love it if you share this with your friends, your family, maybe your colleagues at your work, or maybe just here online. And you can also type away in the comment section if you want, but do keep it friendly and polite. And one last thing, I'm personally not a native English speaker, so if I get something wrong, or if I mispronounce something, or something else happens, know that that is perfectly human. Okay, let's start talking about time travel. I'm gonna use a lot of images and some video here as well, so stay with me as I get a little shorter or smaller, really, to give you what you should know. So, time travel has been used a lot in pop culture in the last couple of years. And with that, I mean the last, I'm going to say 50 years. Because in the 90s and the 80s, that was used a lot as well. In fact, you see a picture right here of Back to the Future with Doc Brown and the other one. And you can hear, by the way, I'm talking about this, that I don't know a lot about it, which is completely true because from after I'm from the 90s, so I know less about stuff from the 80s, and so that's why I point that out for a moment. But I'm gonna touch on some of those aspects here as well, and in fact, I'm gonna have one of those examples in here. Okay, so time travel has been used a ton in, I said, 50 years, and it's an interesting thing to use in a story, but it can also be incredibly difficult and complex to use. And I'm going to go into some examples now. So one of the most recent ones is, of course, I'm gonna reference a lot of superhero stuff here because some of that is based on reality and science, but also based on a lot of fiction as well. So first and foremost, I'm gonna talk here about Avengers Endgame, where, and for those who haven't seen those movies, huge spoiler alert before I start talking about this. So, to set it up for a moment, so for a couple phases, Marvel built out this universe of superheroes coming together to fight against extraterrestrial threats and other creatures and monsters and magical beings and all of that. And in the last two movies of Phase 3, that's Infinity War and Endgame, we get, and also a film very important to those two is Ant-Man and the Wasp, because Ant-Man and the Wasp introduces the element of the quantum realm, which is this incredibly tiny version of a location not seeable to the human eye. And what happens in that movie is that Scott gets stuck in there by the very end of that movie. And so at some point, he comes back into the present, as a lot of people have just been laid waste to in the war with Thanos, in different places with different incursions, meaning not the term from the movies themselves from Marvel, but like fighting against each other in different places is what I mean with an incursion here. Not how the not how Marvel uses that term itself. And so Scott comes back from the quantum realm. He heads to the main Avengers building in Upper New York, and he introduces the aspect of time travel to them. And I'm a little stuck in the sequencing of the movie itself, but basically, this is after they went after Thanos, who had the stones, the Infinity Stones, who used those to lay waste to the universe, while his forces fought against Earth's mightiest defenders, which is another title for the Avengers. And so that introduces the whole thing of time travel in the MCU. And to get their bearings about this, they go to one of the smartest people in the world to really help them out, which is, of course, Tony Stark in this case. And so Tony figures something out against his better judgment, and that is this thing that I'm highlighting here with my mouse, the Mobius strip, which is basically like a navigation system for inside the quantum realm, which allows you to travel through time. And so they go to specific points in time to gather the past Infinity Stones so they can use them together again and bring back all those people that have been snapped away. And so that's a plot item in this movie. The Mobius strip, which is this weird structure that Tony uses. I'm gonna show you it a bit better. Just a second. So it's this thing. You can see this is a bit bigger. Gonna check if I can give you a. Let's keep it at this. So this is the Mobius strip, basically to navigate time travel inside the quantum realm, to go to key places to regain that Infinity Stone so they can use it on their own gauntlet that they make. And so in Endgame, this is very much a plot device, literally, that they use to further the story into its last point. Because, and this is a hot take from me, while I love the movie, it really comes together near the end. That's when it absolutely nails everything. Kind of like that meme from The Emperor's New Groove with Kronk saying, "Oh yeah, it's all coming together." And so they assemble all the stones, they get it on the gauntlet that they have made, the Stark gauntlet, and since it gives off gamma radiation, Hulk feels the Hulk, or Smart Hulk in that case, feels the need to snap everyone back because he thinks that he's going to be the least affected and least damaged of all of them to do it. So he does it, brings back all those people, and that helps them finally win the fight against Thanos, who has traveled back from the past to their present because, well, original Thanos is dead in the future, so his old self, the 2014 self, has traveled along back with them to that point, with his entire army, with all those people that we've met over the course of those phases. That includes his Black Order, that includes the finale in that moment of all the phases before and between the heroes of Earth 616, which is the designation that they have, and then the army of Thanos and his Black Order as they face off. And that is actually, now that I think about it, a pretty good pitch for that movie. For Endgame, I'm going to give you a little hot take here. While I absolutely love the movie, I think they could have gone for a better title. And while I get why they named it that, I don't really care all that much about it. Okay, so that's one example of how to use time travel is that you have your characters go back into the past for things that they need in the present. That's one of those things that happens. In preparation for this video, I watched a movie that came out a couple of years ago. It's still pretty good. It's called Boss Level. It's with a group of people that I mean the actors that I like as actors, but don't really. I'm not a huge fan of as a person, especially the two leads with Frank Grillo and Mel Gibson. But nonetheless, this is a good movie about a former mercenary, somebody in the special forces, played by Frank Grillo, as you can see, and he is placed into a device called the Osiris Spindle, which is basically a time travel device on a large scale, but that is set to loop back anytime he dies. So it's kind of like with a video game. Oh, you failed. Want to try again? And and it's him having this personal journey. Roy Pulver is his real name. That's who Frank Grillo plays. Of course, Frank Grillo you will also know from that other uh, pop culture franchise that I just talked about with Marvel, where he played Crossbones. And of course, you will know Mel Gibson, iconic actor, not that great of a person anyway. But they play off well against each other in this movie. And so it's very much like a video game that comes to life in a film form. And so it tells the life of Roy Pulver as he's trying to regain his life one day, one try at every point that he can. And he meets up back with the love of his life, played by Naomi Watts in this picture. That's her right here. Let me give you a better one. Yeah, so that's a better one. That's her right here. And so she used his DNA, put it into the device, the Osiris spindle. At one point, he learns about what it is really about because she gave him a present as he went away after meeting with her, questioning what she was really doing at that place. And this present is the story of Osiris, the Egyptian god of death and the afterlife, and basically tells the tale in a scientific matter into this movie. And so there's a moment in this film where he effectively sits down with that president and reads what I just said, that Osiris, the king of the dead and the god of the afterlife, was assembled back together and by the one that loved him, that would have been Isis from the Egyptian mythology. And I know I'm not showing pictures of those figures now, but they're about. This is one of the most iconic stories of Egyptian mythology, so I think you can get a picture from what I'm saying here. And so effectively, that's what happens. Every time he dies, he's assembled back. He has to figure out what is happening and put a stop to it finally. And we get this in a cool action version with a lot of swearing, a lot of blood, a lot of fun as well. There's a lot of swearing. And so in this movie here again, time travel is in the form of a loop, which is kind of like a subgenre in itself. And I'm going to mention another superhero property where this is done as well on occasion, and that's this one. A show that I really love, The Legends of Tomorrow. And on occasion, they have a loop episode of themselves. And to give you a little bit of a little bit of extra information about this series, this is basically the more B-listers from the DCU back when it's back when it had an Arrowverse. As all those secondary characters were put together in a project. These are most of them at the very beginning, starting with and the comic book lovers and the superhero lovers will love this. So you have, by the way, some iconic actors in this. You have, for example, Wentworth Miller as Captain Cold. You have Canary in this as well, or in this case, White Canary, played by Katie Lotz. You have Captain Cold's buddy, Heatwave, played by Dominic Purcell. You'll know Dominic Purcell and Wentworth Miller from the incredible Prison Break series. Of course, you have Arthur Darvill, the whole reason why this project came together, also based on another uh, time travel project, Doctor Who, and he used to play one of the Doctor Who's in that series over years. And so he appears in that kind of similar role in this with a guy, a Brit called Rip Hunter, assembling a team. This includes two ancient incarnations, the Hawkman and Hawk Girl, the TV versions, not the new movie versions from the recent Superman film. We have Hal Carter and Kendra Carter, who played these two from the from DC's incredible vault of many uh, uh, characters that have been touched on quite a few times by people over the last couple of years. You had one Hawkman in the um, trying to remember. I'm trying to remember the movie with The Rock where he played the villain, where he thought he was gonna make a difference and divert the power of the DC universe. Yeah, I don't know. You had a Hawkman in that. I'm gonna look it up for a moment. Or if you know it before I can find it, put it in the comments down below. Ah, Black Adam. Yeah, that was the name of his character. And so in the Black Adam movie, there was a Hawkman played by Aldous Hodge, who I have to say was pretty good actually in that role. So what I'm saying here is that we've had some of that character in different variations over the last couple of years. So Aldous Hodge in Black Adam, we've had a new Hawkgirl in the Superman movie. We haven't had these two on the left here on the big screen. So that's the combination of Firestone being Dr. Stein and Jefferson Jackson, a track player for a American football team, and together they formed the character known as Firestorm. Yeah, that's too small. Anyway, um, let's see if I can get a bigger picture here. Oh, that's smaller. Anyway, so this was a series that ran for a long time, from 2016 to 2022, and personally, I loved that. It was at first kind of stiff, but was really wacky and bonkers near the end, but absolutely worth it. And it's also full of time travel because that is exactly the point. So the initial story of Legends of Tomorrow is that Mr. Rip Hunter, played by Arthur Darvill here in the middle, gathers together a team of secondary superheroes, whether they are a villain or a good guy, because Mr. Heatwave here on the this is a pretty good picture. Never mind. Yeah, so context wise, so you have Rip Hunter, played by Arthur Darvill, kind of like his role on Doctor Who, assembles a team of people to become legends and help him against the forces of evil, we'll just call. But these come in the forms of the many villain characters from the DCU vaults and the many characters that have been in the Arrowverse at that point, which includes some incredible people, like, for instance, the Reverse Flash, you have the Black Archer, you have the League of Assassins that is involved, you get. So, very wacky stuff near the end. There's a clone involvement, there's aliens, there's Dominators, which is a specific kind of alien. You get a ton of crazy, bonkers, badass, batshit crazy shit with this series. And it's all about time travel and fixing things that went bad in the past to make things in the future right. That is basically what that series is all about. And it's absolutely perfect because it gets so bonky and crazy, but also full of heart and full of many different themes, whether it's about death or friendship or community or about many different things. They get pretty thematic with the genres as well. You get some World War stuff, you get some swords and sandals stuff, you get samurai shit and all of that. And that's all crazy and awesome to talk about. And so they use a ship to go back in time and fix those things that have been gone bad in the past. And every season, it has a different name of that. At one point, it's called something with Ek. at the very beginning. ACH. And it changes every season what that thing is called. But basically, things that went bad that need to be fixed. That's basically the gist of it. And it's an incredible series, and I love it. Okay, let's talk about another franchise that also has a time travel component that I want to talk about on a way more personal level that can be used. And I'm going to show you a clip from a movie that I rewatched recently. And before we watch this, I'm going to say this is from Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban at the very end, where we learn about time travel.
3 turns should do it, I think. Oh, by the way, when in doubt, I find retracing my steps to be a wise place to begin. Good luck.
What the bloody hell was that all about?
Sorry, Ron, but seeing as you can't walk.
What just happened? Where's Ron?
7:30. Where were we at 7:30?
I don't know, going to Hagrid's?
Come on, and we can't be seen.
Hermione!
So that's everything from this clip of The Prisoner of Azkaban. I'm going to go a little bit back to a key moment here.
Sing.
What bloody hell was that all about?
Sorry, Ron, but seeing as you can't walk.
So, in this moment, you see Hermione pulling out an object. Because sometimes a time traveling device can be a huge thing, a large thing, a medium thing, or something incredibly small. And so she uses what is called a time turner, which allows you to go back in time and do things that you want to do. Like, for instance, in terms of this movie and from the book, Hermione has been using this device to attend multiple lessons, multiple classes, the whole year around. And they kind of cycle through that in this movie because we get the highlights, the big moments with the action and the story and the context. And so at varying points, we see Hermione pop up out of nowhere because she's been spending time in the past using this device. And I'm going to talk about a couple of other things from this clip here. What happens? By the way, we see, we're going to go in on this clip here for a moment. I'm going to get into the video here. So it's a little janky here, but basically you have this kind of like a piece of jewelry, like a necklace, but then you can't see it very well, but it's kind of like what we will call in Dutch a zandloper. I'm gonna look that up for a moment because you guys are not gonna know what that is from my translation. An hourglass, that's what I meant. So back to this moment. So that's basically an hourglass in this thing right here, in this kind of necklace. And so they use it to go back in time. We're gonna get in further on this because I want to show something else that is actually cleverly used by Alfonso Cuarón, who directed this movie in a bit.
What just happened? Where's Ron?
7:30. Where were we at 7:30?
I know, going...
By the way, oh, I'm gonna point this out already. You see the big thing at the end of the hallway? That's where we're going next. And so the camera follows the two of them.
Hagrid?
Come on, and we can't be seen.
Hermione!
And oh god, what is it? It's a clock. To show you that this is all about time. And an awesome overview, by the way. Good use of the camera here. This was probably on one of those moving things where you can pull a camera along and we get this incredible overview. And we see them run. Okay, so it's an incredible good use of detail and in the moment here where, for context wise, not just about how Hermione has been using the time turner, but what they need to do. So, in order to save Sirius's life, who they now know was not after Harry, he was looking for proof so that he can prove to probably the magical court of the Ministry of Magic that he did not kill anybody all those years ago. 12 years of it, as he says it. And that it was actually Peter Pettigrew that did it, who cut off a finger to lay the guilt at Sirius's side. I know it's said a bit differently, but I said it like that. And so basically, the use of actual time in this, and then that huge overview of the clock, brilliant. I love it. And I'm gonna get back to me for a moment. So, we're talking a lot here about time and about travel and how that comes together. Name it time travel. And they can go from really small things, like we just saw with that time turner, to really big things with the Osiris spindle from boss level, and how it can be used overall, and how we can go from the past to the present, or vice versa, or even in another way. And so, time travel really is an interesting but also very complex thing. But if you do it right, it can be an interesting way to tell a story. And speaking of, I'm gonna have to tell you more to convey how interesting of a concept it is to be playing with time, but not fucking it up in the same way as well. Okay, we're gonna go to a smaller version here. Again, back on YouTube for a moment. There's another way on how to go back in time. So I'm gonna mention here another Arrowverse show, The Flash. It gets a lot of hate, gets a lot of flack. I still loved it though. I've watched every season of it. A couple of years back, there was also a movie about it where they did something similar. And of course, context wise, it's about Barry Allen, who plays the superhero The Flash, a man who can travel at lightning speed, who runs faster than lightning, and actually can go back in time if he is fast enough. And it goes back to Mach, I think it's 10. And there's some science to it. And there's also a lot of science in this series because Barry is a forensic analyst. Barry is a forensic analyst for the Central City Police Department. And so it's basically superhero meets police procedural. They have a villain of the week every week. And while in terms of quality and quantity, it dips definitely, but it's absolutely worth your time. And I know it's a long series. It played from 2014 to 23, which is pretty long. I'll admit that. And yeah, there were many seasons of it. It's police procedural meets superhero. It was part of the Arrowverse. It was part of the layout for the other series that I talked about, Legends of Tomorrow here, because figures like the two Hawks and the Firestorm appeared in that series, while the other characters also appeared on occasion in overlap with that show in a crossover universe where they talk about it, the incredible stuff that DC does. In fact, in their marketing, they constantly have to lay out the fact that it's not just Legends of Tomorrow, it's DC's Legends of Tomorrow. And this, like The Flash, was part of the Arrowverse, which had crossover moments in episodes over the years. And I'm talking about this one because there was an old version from the 90s. And interestingly, it was also part of the backdrop of this series because I'm gonna look something up. So the old actor that played the original version in the 90s, played by the character of this man, John Wesley Shipp, appears as an older version during the crossover stuff and with the time travel and also multiversal travel. And yeah, there's a lot of people are very mixed about. Oh crap, that was not what I meant to do. Anyway, there's a lot of mixed reviews on how good the original was versus this new one. And to some degree, there probably is some legit criticism. But personally, for me, I loved it. But I also understand the criticism. Okay, let's talk about a couple of other projects that involve with that have time travel. One from a couple of years back, and the next one I want to talk about is Looper, which is from 2012. It has these people, of course: Bruce Willis, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Emily Blunt, where um, the old version of someone goes back into the past to get the help of the young version, which is an interesting take when it comes to time travel because usually in other projects, that's one of the rules that you should not do. You do not meet with the people that could actually have an impact on you and on the timeline, by the way. And that is often said in superhero led franchises and movies where if you interfere with the past, that past will then become your future. Kind of like what Smart Hulk says in Endgame. You know what? I'm gonna put that up for a moment.
Let me ask you something. If we can do this, go back in time, why don't we just find baby Thanos, and
First of all, that's horrible.
it's Thanos.
And secondly, time doesn't work that way. Changing the past doesn't change the future.
Look, we go back, we get the stones before Thanos gets them. Thanos doesn't have the stones. Problem solved.
Bingo.
That's not how it works.
Well, that's what I heard.
Wait, but who? Who told you that?
Star Trek, Terminator, Time Cop, Time After Time.
Quantum Leap.
Wrinkle in Time, Somewhere in Time.
Hot Tub Time Machine.
Hot Tub Time Machine. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Basically any movie that deals with time travel.
Die Hard? No, that's not one.
This is known.
I don't know why everyone believes that, but that isn't true. Think about it. If you travel to the past, that past becomes your future. And your former present becomes the past, which can't now be changed by your new future.
Exactly.
So Back to the Future's a bunch of bullshit?
Let me
So that's basically the explainer of what I just did. Going back into the past and then interfere with something that you did or that somebody else did, like let's say prevent your dad from marrying your mom, and having you will prevent you from existing. You will actually undo your own birth in that case. So that's kind of also with how time travel works. And that was my phone. So in Looper, something similar happens. I haven't actually watched it, so I can't really say that for sure. But basically, this movie comes down to old me comes back for the young version for help. Okay, let's talk about a way more iconic franchise from the past to talk about the future and time travel. And I think you already know which one I'm talking about because it has a badass actor delivering badass lines. The Terminator from 1984, the original. And for those who haven't seen this movie, a little context here. So there's a guy in the future called John Connor who sends a cyborg back to the past to defend him and to tell the people that there's a way to defeating Skynet, which is the bad guys in this movies, I should say, because there's many more Terminator movies. That includes the second hint here, Terminator Dark Fate, 2019, which was also the big revelation of the main character here, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. And uh, so there's a way more that I'm not talking about with this movie. But what's interesting here is that the supposed leader of mankind in the future has sent a cyborg assassin to prevent himself from living. Kind of like the inverse of what I just said with Looper. You send someone back to prevent yourself from becoming even worse. Which kind of tracks with the rest of the Terminator movies. Because they're all about that. Like, what's the good we do for the betterment of the world and for those we love and care about? And there have been many movies of this franchise. I've seen one, I think, the original from '94, and there's been multiple more movies about this concept of preventing ourselves from becoming more evil. Okay, let's go to a a lighter subject with another example. There's a comedy called About Time, which is about a young man with the ability to time travel, and this is in a more comedy way that it happens. Ooh. And this is with some interesting folks, including Domo. I'm gonna go back for a moment so I can say those names right. Domo Gleason, Rachel McAdams, Vanessa Kirby is in this. So is Bill Nighy and Margot Robbie. And then also Tom Hollander as well. And so I wanted to point this one out because most often time travel is done with like a sci-fi and an action or a superhero kind of vibe, but this is a comedy that does it, which is maybe an interesting way to introduce time travel to, and because maybe it needs more distinction, which sets it apart from other uh, movies and other projects that are in the works and all of that. And I feel like I'm gonna finish this up right now. Okay, so guys, I've talked a lot about here. I've talked about some examples when it comes to time travel, but really, if you are a writer and you want to involve time travel in your story, what you do is up to you, obviously. But these were some of these suggestions that I thought would be interesting for you guys to look at, because another one of my main tips is to check out the masters, people who have done it before, a project that have done it before, and I hope you check these out if you want to, or if you already have them, or if you have like a whole idea already out. All up to you what you do with your idea when it comes to time travel. So I'm gonna, but I'm gonna stop giving you more hints and letting you go back to your writing. I hope this helped with your writing if you are writing something that involves time travel. And before I go, I want to say one more thing. That is that you can like this video. You can also subscribe to this channel if you want. Those things help us make the podcast and the channel more available to those people who like this kind of content. And I hope that happens because, and also, it is helping. And I want to thank people who have been doing this because the channel is growing, podcast is growing. I love to see that happen. And one more thing, you can share this with your friends or your family or people at your work or maybe just here online as well. And you can comment away in the comment section if you want to keep it polite and friendly. And one last thing is that I have been Frederik for the FWX podcast, and I will see you guys in the next video. See ya.